Oh, okay, rumor time. We're getting pretty close to some facts here though, and we're gonna talk about the latest from potentially NVIDIA and why it honestly just pisses me off. Anyway, this rant brought to you by V1 Tech makes it easy to create your dream setup with a wide range of customizable PC parts, desk and wall art, gaming mats, custom phone cases, and more. Choose from existing designs or create your own to bring your favorite art to life, allowing you to truly make your setup your own. And V1 Tech is proud to announce their all-new RGB shadow box wall frames featuring addressable RGB lighting and swappable artwork, allowing you to change the look and feel of your setup quickly and easily with no tools necessary. Start creating your dream setup with V1 Tech by following the links in the description below. All right, let me preface this by saying I do not have any embargo information. I do not have any NDA stuff like currently. So I can't talk about rumors and stuff if I've received information and then be like, oh my gosh, the rumors state, because that's just weird, right? And anyway, so it's important to it's fun actually, to speculate a little bit, see if these rumors hold true and such. So today's rumor mail is brought to you courtesy of Tom's Hardware. By the way, I want to point out I have never had a website make me want to install an ad blocker more than Tom's Hardware. I've closed all these, but they just, whatever. Side rant. Today we're talking specifically about the RTX 40 series rumors and what I was initially going to just talk about being the 4080 Super. But I can tell you that, but there's more cards on here. Why does this ad keep opening back up? There's more cards on this list than I was kind of expecting, and some naming that Phil and Nick and I were actually joking around with that might actually be true. I will tell you this though, there has been some communications anonymously heading my way saying BOLO or be on the lookout. So I don't have any specs, so I can't say if the specs and pricing and naming and all that's true, but I can tell you something's coming. I think everyone knows that by now. And if anything, regarding like the whole China embargo, China market stuff with like the 4080 Dragon or whatever they called it that was specific to that region taught us, and that's why there were such shortages, it looks like, is like the 4080, 4090 dies were kind of being reallocated to a regional chip or a regional SKU that was okay to be sold in China. And I think that's now gonna just sort of make its way worldwide, but with different naming. I think they called it Dragon or whatever for the one that was for the, specifically the China market. Moving forward, Tom's Hardware here is reporting that there is rumored to be a 4080 Super. No surprise there. The only real surprise is the fact they didn't use the term Super for the 30 series. Those were TIs, but then 20 series they had Supers, and then we had 1650 Supers and 1660 Supers and 1660 TIs and all that stuff, but they were separate. This is reporting now that there's gonna be a 4070 Super and a 4070 Ti Super. Now we already have a 4070 and a 4070 Ti. So does that mean we're gonna have a 4070, a 4070 Super, a 4070 Ti, and a 4070 Ti Super, plus now the rumored, well, the existing 4080, which by the way is an MSRP of $1,200, we'll talk about that in a second, and a 4080 Super, and then potentially we have 4090, and then potentially a 4090 Super? Or is it 4090 Ti? Whatever. The chart's right here. They're calling it 4090 Ti. It's got these ones that have asterisks on there. These are rumored. So source for these, IT Home, X Preview, and Hassan Mujaba. I can't remember how to say his name. These are the usual suspects when it comes to the rumors, by the way. And most of the time they're pretty correct. They've got a really good track record, but they're not always exactly directly on the bullseye. So let's talk about the 4070 stuff first. Currently, the cost of a RTX 4070 is about $549 for AIB cards, right? Because I think $499 is the MSRP for a 4070. So if we look at the 4070 Ti, which does currently exist, we're now looking at a pretty significant jump up to what, about 700 and the upper 700s? So that means the 4070 Super has to be between the 550-ish, 500 to 550 for MSRP / and then third-party cards tend to be more than MSRP, and 750. That's a $200 price range there. So yeah, it's gonna be weird to see that gap filled by one card because then it's gonna really clutter up the top of the stack. So if we look at alleged pricing here, it's rumored that the recommended retail price of the 4070 Ti Super, so stupid to say, is $799 to $849. Now that price point right there sort of holds water in my opinion, because I just showed you that a upper 700s is sorry, I just saw that pop up in the corner of my eye. Upper 700s for the 4070 Ti, and then 4070 Super Ti would obviously be above that. So that kind of makes sense. But what happens if we look at this chart now, and we see right here, the 4080 is at 8103 with 9728 FP32 CUDA cores and 16 gigabytes of 256-bit GDDR6X. And the 4080 Super is rumored to also be an 8103 with 10,240, so an extra 512 with essentially the same memory. So currently the price right now of an RTX 4080 is approximately $1,200 and up. So you'll see some of these models right here, which are actually a little below MSRP. Like B&H Photo has this 4080 for $1,179. That's actually, what, $20 below MSRP for a custom card. Sort of makes sense because of the fact they've not been selling well. Unfortunately, recently, because of the shortages, because of the reallocation of dies for the China market, they went back up momentarily. We did a video about that, and now they've kind of come down fairly quickly since they're available again. What does that mean for the pricing of the 4080? That means it has to drop because of the fact that you cannot have a card that is going to be faster than it, cost less than it. Well, Jay, where are you getting this cost less than? Well, the rumor is $999 because this is theoretically the same die that they reallocated and sort of made for the China market. Because remember, one of the embargo reasons was the price. So $999 and below is kind of like where the market had to be. Like they had to meet that requirement of $999 or less for the China market. And so they had to make a card fit there. So if they wanted to make a fast card, because realistically they could have just taken 4080s, relabeled them, repriced them and sold them, but they didn't. They made a different SKU out of it. And the rumor is also that the 8103 for the 4080 Super is fully unlocked, which means there would be no room for a 4080 Ti Super on the same die. That does not mean they couldn't make a 4080 Ti Super on the 8102 that's even more locked than the 4090 currently is. Because we know the 8102 at 16384 CUDA cores is not fully unlocked. Theoretically, that's what the 4090 Ti would be. But we're not even gonna talk about that today. I have very little reason to believe that the 4090 Ti is what we're gonna be talking about in January when these launches are expected to take place. So the part that makes me angry, and I said at the beginning of this video is like, this makes me mad, is this shows like the blatant just cost gouging and greed. Because if we're talking about a more unlocked 8103, that would mean lesser yields, right? Because the higher the CUDA core counts, the less yields there tends to be just through the manufacturing process. Now, sure, we are looking at more than a year now of manufacturing process maturity. Typically, the yields improve as the manufacturing continues. The process gets better. It's like practice makes perfect, right? But if we're gonna be dropping it $200 down to the $999 price point, and it's even faster, and we know now that means the 4080 has to be somewhere around the $899 to $849 range. So now we're talking $250 to $300 cheaper. So there's your proof that NVIDIA was just gouging you the entire time. Now nobody's surprised to hear that. We know that. NVIDIA has been nicknamed Ingredia for so long for a valid reason. So that's what sort of makes me frustrated here. Now, one of the things that Phil and I were talking about is like the potential pricing for the 4070, 4070 Super, 4070 Ti, 4070 Ti Super, and then now the 4080 in there. Because look, we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4 4070 models. 4 of them. That's madness. So what's the price gap gonna look like? Well, we already talked about the fact that we've got a $200 price gap between the 4070 and the 4070 Ti right there. So we know the 4070 Super has to fit in between that. So probably gonna see a $599 MSRP. So from $499 to $599, that means the 4070 Ti has to stay around the $700 price point, which is currently around where it is, with the 4070 Ti Super being rumored that $799 to $849 price point. Now you're getting dangerously close to the new price of a 4080. So that is a really weird, crowded product stack. This is also something NVIDIA tends to do to just squish the market so full of NVIDIA SKUs that people tend to even forget about AMD. Like this is a tack that they've used ever since RTX came out. Like 1080 models didn't have this ridiculous stack, if you will. I mean, how many SKUs are on this one chart right here? right? So we got 4060, 4060 Ti, 4070, 4070 Super, 4070 Ti, 4070 Ti Super, 4080, 4080 Super, 4090, and then the theoretical 4090 Ti. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 price points starting at the $300-ish price point. So the question is, are we going to sunset any of these models? I think sunsetting a model could be the right move if the newer, faster cards slide in the current price point. If you take a faster card and you charge more for it, and then you sunset the cheaper model, you are forcing people into a more expensive model. Now, in terms of a for-profit company, that sounds like a great thing. Your shareholders would love you for that. But do you know who's gonna hate you? Is the very market at which you're relying on. I think we are seeing some of the most slowed, reduced sales we've probably ever seen since even prior to the human malware making its way around. It's rumored here that the MSRP between $599 and $649 for the 4070 Super, remember I said it had to be $599? $569 would be stupid. To have $150 premium above the 4070 to a 4070 Super, when it's realistically, it's gonna be single-digit performance improvement. It says a theoretical 6 to 9% faster than a 4080. I would love to say that that means it would cost 6 to 9% more expensive. That's not the way NVIDIA works. We already know NVIDIA, for a 6 to 9% performance improvement, will want to charge you a minimum of 15% price increase. It is just a exponentially more expensive curve to get more performance at the higher range. Again, maybe because of the yields. So that brings us back to speculation of what the 4080 would cost in its new price. It has to be a new price. It has to drop. It doesn't have a choice. Or it has to disappear entirely. The problem I have with disappearing models is the fact that the new card could slide in more expensive. Would a 4080 Super at $1,200 be, I mean, technically that's 6 to 9% more performance, if the rumor holds true, that's 6 to 9% faster, more performance at the same price. But it's a price that's, we already know is artificial. I mean, all prices are artificial. A price is just what is a market willing to spend for a product? And then that number is arbitrarily set. It has to be above the cost of manufacturing. That's it. And the cost of manufacturing / distribution / advertising, all the overhead to make that product sell. So whatever all that is rolled in, the card has to be above that. Otherwise the business goes out of business. That's just how profit works. We already know at $1,200, that's way above that number if they were able to take the same die and the same manufacturing process and the same amount of RAM and everything and throw it into a China model at $999. So we know it has to be somewhere around there. What I wouldn't put past NVIDIA is to make the 4080 Super $1,200 and the 4080 $999. I would love to say that the 4080 Super would launch at $999 and the 4080 has to drop even more in price, but it almost seems more like the NVIDIA way to make the current price the faster card going, that's nearly 10% more performance for the same price. How could you scoff at that? And then make the 4080 $999, making everyone realize that card could have probably been near $200 cheaper from the get-go. That's why I'm angry. I'm angry also because I'm an enthusiast in this market, and I'm just like you guys, it's difficult to make content about something everyone's jaded about. I love my job. I love this genre. I love tech. I love throwing GPUs on systems and overclocking them and seeing the FPS number go up and just geeking out over it. But I've never seen a more disconnected, disinterested, just jaded enthusiast base as I have today. And when our entire existence depends on people being excited about this like we are, it's depressing for everyone. Probably even more so the content creator, to be honest, because of the fact that we get to see how upset everyone is. You know, and it's like, it feels bad when this just seems like, what is the next opportunity to cash grab? And I feel like the 4070 lineup is clearly it, if these rumors hold true. Last but not least, let's talk dates. January 31st is more than likely when you're gonna see the 4080 Super. But what I find is odd, and I'm gonna tell you that I've already told you we've gotten some emails from some anonymous sources saying, Bolo, be on the lookout with stuff lifting and information able to be talked about around January 31st. That perfectly coincides with the rumored launch dates for this. What doesn't coincide is the fact that in these emails, there was no mention of apparently the 4070 Super hitting shelves January 17th. Again, these are rumors. The 70 Ti Super available on the 24th. And then here's 4080 Super January 31st. So I think the January 31st date is pretty much set. Unless the 4070 Super launches on January 31st and everything moves from there. So I think these dates are weird, only because the only date we've been like nudge, nudge, wink, wink about is January 31st. So that is odd. Anyway, apparently you can get all the information officially from NVIDIA just before CES. Because this NVIDIA keynote is expected to be the day before CES officially starts. It's rare that we actually see products from NVIDIA, like GPU-wise, launched coinciding with a big tech conference, because NVIDIA loves to be the only thing talked about. So they'll hold their own press conference at a different location, at a different time, completely separate from like Computex and CES and all that, sometimes GDC. But anyway, that's it. That's the rumor. I want to see 4080s cost $699. The 80 series used to always cost $699, around there. $649 even. We had 1080 Ti's at $649. I, like you, want all the performance, and I want it at a price that it seems reasonable. Because guess what? If a 4080 costs $649, if the price was able to exist there, then your 4060 could cost like $199. And I think honestly they could do it. We know TSMC has given price increases across the board, upwards of 25%. Now that's 25% of that component, which is the chip. But NVIDIA has been applying that price increase to the total cost of production. That's just, I mean, it's just profiteering at its best. All right, guys. I'm mad just like you guys. I don't know what else to say. I guess we'll find out in a couple weeks here.